In One Piece, Conqueror's Haki is the kind of power that screams, "I'm built different," without uttering a word. Only a handful of legends can wield this power, and the one who makes the most out of it is none other than our goofy pirate Luffy. Here are some of his best Conqueror's Haki moments in One Piece. Starting off this list with a moment that perfectly captures Luffy's king energy, casually putting wild animals in their place without even lifting a finger.
なんだよ。
On his way to meet Zoro in Wano, Luffy comes across this massive sword-wielding baboon who's ready to pick a fight with him, and Luffy didn't do much and let his Haki do the talking because, hey, baboon wasn't worth Luffy's time anyway. In an instant, the baboon drops like someone hit the off switch. To Luffy, it was just another small fry. It's a small scene in the grand saga of One Piece, but it's one of those flexes that proves you should never underestimate Luffy, no matter how big the enemy or how much of an advantage they think they have. Baboon never stood a chance, and neither would we if Luffy glared at us like that. Let's rewind now to a much darker setting, the icy depths of Impel Down. You see, at that time, Luffy was poisoned and freezing when a hungry pack of wolves decided to attack him. He didn't have the strength for a drawn-out fight, but that's the thing about a true king's presence. He doesn't need muscle to make predators back down. With a single burst of Conqueror's Haki, the entire pack crumbles, not knowing what hit them. And because this is Luffy, he doesn't just flex his dominance because he can, it's also about survival. Even on the brink of death, his spirit refuses to yield, and the world around him bends to his undying will. This scene is so impressive because it's just a dying boy making nature itself submit. Even half dead, Luffy's still the alpha in the room. Moving on, we have Luffy underwater. When Hammond and his crew of fishmen tried to flex their numbers and bring in giant sea monsters to intimidate him, Luffy couldn't care less. Instead, he fired off a burst of Conqueror's Haki so intense, it froze that sea monster as he was about to attack Luffy. You see, these creatures are apex predators of the ocean, the kind of beast most pirates avoid entirely, and here's Luffy treating them like misbehaving pets, especially that sea monster, because he just got treated like a puppy that was barking too loudly. Hammond really picked a fight with someone way out of his league, and underwater, surrounded by enemies, Luffy still makes it crystal clear who's in charge. Next up, we have one of the most important Conqueror's Haki moments in Luffy's journey, the day he proved to Rayleigh that he could truly control it.
これか。うわっ。
On Rusukaina, Rayleigh tests him by throwing him into a gauntlet of massive, dangerous animals. But instead of just blasting them unconscious, Luffy learns to control his Haki, using just enough to calm them down without hurting them. You see, it's a far cry from his earlier wild bursts of Haki that knocked out friends and foes alike. Here he's showing precision, restraint, and the kind of mastery that separates a king from a reckless fighter. This moment is pure proof of Luffy's growth, and Rayleigh's watching the whole time, smiling like a proud mentor who knows his student is becoming something special. It's moments like these that make Luffy's Conqueror's Haki different from anyone else's. Now this is the kind of moment that makes you sit up straight and think, oh yeah, things are about to get serious. In One Piece Stampede, when Luffy squares up against Douglas Bullet, the Demon Heir himself, they don't start with punches, they start with pure dominance, a full-on Conqueror's Haki clash. Neither one's flinching, neither one's backing down, and you can feel the energy from the screen. It's heavy. Bullet's got this overwhelming presence that screams unstoppable, but Luffy's glare is pure don't test me. And in that silent, no words needed stare down, you get chills. Because you know Luffy's spirit has never lost a battle, and this battle was all about spirits. If Haki clashes were exams, this was the final boss paper, and both of them brought nothing but perfect answers. Even the bystanders probably felt like their heads were about to pop. Even while unconscious, Luffy proves that his willpower doesn't clock out even when he does. After getting pushed to the brink against Kaido, Luffy's body is out cold, but his Conqueror's Haki is still wide awake and working overtime, just like you. The moment those unfortunate men try to touch Luffy, they're knocked out cold with that one strong burst of Haki. What's shocking is that it isn't some deliberate domination, this is pure unconscious dominance. His Haki leaks out in waves, almost like it's got a mind of its own, or maybe like something inside him refuses to bow down to anyone. Whether you call it instinct, muscle memory, or Joy Boy knocking on the door, the results are the same. An entire squad of Kaido's men flatlined in seconds. It's one of those moments that feels almost unfair. Luffy's built so different, even gravity can't pull his spirit down. And if this is what happens when he's asleep at the wheel, imagine the nightmare when he's fully in control. Sliding right into one of the most satisfying don't mess with me moments, we've got Luffy strolling into Sabaody after 2 years of training and instantly checking the wannabes pretending to be his crew. These knockoff pirates were parading around Sabaody, pretending to be Luffy's crew, fooling gullible rookies and acting like they owned the place. The second Luffy walked in and saw the circus, he didn't waste time with trash talk. With a single wave of his Haki, he dropped an entire crowd of wannabe pirates and low-level thugs without even lifting a finger. I mean, he's beyond that now. He really doesn't need to move much now in order to make others submit. Luffy's presence alone cleared the room. It's his way of saying, there's only one captain of this crew, and you're looking at him. Even after 2 years apart, Luffy proved that he's on a whole different level, and imposters don't even register as a warm-up. Back in Amazon Lily, when Luffy shouted at the Kuja pirates, And this was no ordinary shout. This was the awakening of something far deeper within him. Imagine that. The guy is so naturally strong, his Haki just leaks out like steam from a pressure cooker. And the sound traveled all the way up into the sky, almost like it was punching the sun itself. Talk about making a statement that no one could ignore. Kuja pirates started fainting left and right because of this overwhelming energy, and no one had any idea what had just happened. Even Luffy was clueless, just doing his thing. This moment perfectly shows that Luffy's power is about this natural, unstoppable spirit that shines brightest when he's just being himself. That's why even when he doesn't know it, Luffy's Haki is already making waves.
Oi, Luffy! Z のいるところ聞くんだからな。何人か残しとけよ。お願いね。
In the One Piece film Z, Luffy steps up with an absolute power flex against the Marines.
おい Z は今どこにいる
See, Luffy's presence alone hits like a thundership, with Zoro confidently saying, leave a couple of them standing. It's clear he trusts Luffy's Haki so much that not a single Marine is gonna land a scratch on the crew. And honestly, he's not wrong. Luffy's Conqueror's Haki here is on another level, so intense that it made even the Vice Admiral kneel down before the fight even started. The aura Luffy radiates is pure king energy, the kind that makes even the toughest opponents pause and rethink their life choices. He's a natural-born leader whose Haki commands respect without even trying. When he steps forward, the whole scene changes, reminding us why he's the Straw Hat's fearless captain and a true menace to the world's forces.
外野がうるせえな。
どうせ立ってられねえよ
Next up, we've got one of the most hype moments in One Piece, the legendary Conqueror's Haki clash between Luffy and Katakuri in the whole Cake Island arc. Katakuri wanted the battlefield to be clear of bystanders, and Luffy wanted the same, so the two did what any normal pirate would do. They went for letting out their Conqueror's Haki, and with that clash, it wasn't easy for anyone at all to keep standing. After Crocodile, Katakuri is the second major villain who ended up giving Luffy so much trouble, and yet the two clearly seem to respect each other. This isn't just about winning, it's about seeing who comes out on top in a fair fight. It's no wonder Katakuri injured himself intentionally after his sister intervened. The animation's on point, especially with those chilling close-ups of their eyes locking in a deadly stare. Are you loving these flexes from our rubber boy? If yes, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me. Thanks. Let's check the next one out. Then there's Luffy versus Chinjao, another pretty awesome clash when Luffy fought against Don Chinjao in the Dressrosa arc. Okay, so Don Chinjao is a pretty old pirate who's got some real fights under his belt. He's legendary and had the honor of facing off against the pirate king Gold D. Roger himself. The moment their Conqueror's Haki clashed, it was like two kings trying to take each other down with sheer will. Don Chinjao's Haki has that unyielding strength from decades of fighting, while Luffy's is fresh, fiery, and full of potential. You get that classic old versus new vibe, but instead of a boring history lesson, it's two badasses throwing serious shade and even more serious punches. It gave us that total king energy.
王の持つ資質、覇王色の衝突だ。
At Fishman Island, we've got an epic moment that wasn't exactly a fight at all. When Luffy was confronted by Hody Jones's huge army of around 100,000 fishmen, he chose not to throw hands. Instead, Luffy just released a huge surge of Haki like a king ordering his unruly peasants to bow down in front of him. But instead of bowing, half of them were knocked out cold in an instant. The moment really showed how far Luffy had come from his fight with Arlong and his gang, and how normal fishmen no longer stood any chance against him and his crew. Now, he's casually knocking out tens of thousands while barely breaking a sweat. Even Hody, all full of rage and ambition, knew he'd bitten off way more than he could chew. It's a total boss move that reminds us why Luffy isn't just dreaming about being Pirate King, he's already commanding respect like one. Honestly, every time you watch this scene, it hits different and gives you those chills that only a legendary Conqueror's Haki moment can deliver.
お前がどんなとこでどういう王になろうと勝手だけどな。海賊の王者は一人で十分だ。
Then there was that awesome battle with Doflamingo.
つもそうなのか。
Dressrosa arc had a whole bunch of Haki moments, but the best one was definitely when Luffy faced the big baddie of the arc. Doflamingo, with his brutal, ruthless style, tried to dominate with force, but Luffy's Haki hits differently. It's sharp, explosive, and packed with power. The way their Conqueror's Haki interact almost feels like watching two storms collide, each trying to outroar the other. And while Doflamingo's kicks land heavy, Luffy's quicker, more controlled bursts of Haki give him the edge. It perfectly showcased how far Luffy had come, evolving from a brash rookie to a Haki master who could take on the fiercest villains with confidence. Plus, the animation and sound during this fight really cranked up the hype, making every moment feel like the Storm's Eye itself. This one Haki moment of Luffy deserves a legendary status in the Haki Hall of Fame. Let's rewind to one of the most iconic punches in the entire Yonko saga. One of the most shocking and hyped up moments from One Piece. The moment when Luffy punched Kaido. And this was no ordinary punch. It was infused with Haki. Here you have a 19-year-old going head to head with a legendary Yonko who's been around for decades, and somehow Luffy's punch actually damages Kaido. The impact of this hit goes beyond just physical damage. What makes this moment so epic is how Luffy's Conqueror's Haki has leveled up. I absolutely loved how he was mastering Haki at a level that made his attacks sharper and faster. It's rare to see a new fresh pirate match up so evenly with a seasoned Yonko, and this moment screams growth, evolution, and the proof that Luffy's Haki is on a whole other level. Pure Haki mastery on display. This one is going to be talked about for centuries. How can we leave out his groundbreaking Haki display at Marineford? It was a legendary moment that truly announced his arrival on the world stage. Imagine the chaos of Marineford's battlefield, a war zone packed with the world's strongest fighters, and here comes this rookie teenager unleashing Haki so powerful it knocks out entire squads without him even fully realizing it. That silent but terrifying moment made Sengoku freeze in shock, Akainu instantly prioritizing killing Luffy, and even Whitebeard acknowledged the threat he posed. This scene planted the seed for Luffy's rise from a hopeful kid chasing a dream to a future pirate king, marking the first time everyone truly grasped just how deep and limitless his potential really was. When we say Conqueror's Haki, we mean business. And seeing Luffy with that level of power, even the admirals would sit up and take notice. Long before Luffy was duking it out with Kaido, he had his first accidental Haki reveal moment against a giant lovesick panther named Motobaro.
お前とは戦うだけ無駄だ。
Luffy was just trying to get through the chaos when Motobaro charged at him, but instead of throwing a punch, Luffy just looked at him, and boom, Conqueror's Haki flares, and the poor bison faints on the spot like it saw the bill for Gear 5's animation budget. At the time it's played off as comedic, but to seasoned fighters watching, that kind of pressure isn't normal. It's the earliest glimpse of his Conqueror's Haki ability, showing that even without training, his spirit alone could overwhelm others. In hindsight, it's one of those subtle foreshadowing moments that make you think Oda was hinting at this all along. It's wild to think that the same uncontrolled burst here would later be refined into the Kaido level knockout power we see years later.
Luffy! 何したの?
何もしてねえぞ。
麦わらの首打ち取った
The Beast Pirates, who'd been running their mouths a second ago, suddenly looked a lot more tense because in that instant, they realized this wasn't the same straw hat they'd heard about. This was a king walking into enemy territory. You see, Big Mom and Kaido are the kind of forces who've ruled the seas for decades, and they didn't need any introduction to know what just happened. That's the beauty of Conqueror's Haki. It just makes others feel its presence and freeze in place. Just a few arcs ago, he was running headfirst into fights without thinking, often paying the price. But here he is in control. He knows what his power means, and he uses it to set the tone before the first punch is even thrown. And the best part is that this was the moment right before he walks past the two deadly Yonkos and makes history. And then there's this epic moment when Luffy and Big Mom's Hakis clashed. It felt like someone just turned the gravity up to "you're not welcome here." Big Mom was out here with decades of Yonko dominance, a reputation built on terror, iron fists, and enough cake to feed an army. And Luffy was still figuring out how to Yonko, but that didn't stop him from throwing down that kingly presence like, "Move aside, Granny, I'm coming for the throne." By the time Luffy fought against Big Mom, he had become something more than a random rubber kid. He's standing shoulder to shoulder with monsters who've ruled the seas for decades, and Big Mom learnt that day that the new generation doesn't exactly knock before kicking the door down. That day, Luffy seemed like a storm on the horizon, and there was no stopping him.
お前もカイドウも幹部もオロチも部下もお前ら全員ぶっ飛ばしに来たんだ
And with that, we're wrapping up this list of the best Luffy Haki moments. There are lots of moments like this, so we must have missed out some of your favorites. Don't keep us hanging though, be sure to comment down below any attacks you think should have made this list. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of this juicy content. See you next time.